Says I'm live. Well, this is your host. I am your host. 8 Wind is Timeless. And what I bring to you is Chocolate Mountain Sports. And I'm sorry I couldn't come on yesterday to finish I need to finish my bracket for the South and the Midwest. There aren't any games on today. Resin is mighty hard to get off your hands. So, going into, and people can watch this later, and I've already given my picks. Well, my picks are easy. I'm going with University of Michigan to play Gonzaga. Then I'm going with Illinois to play Ohio State. And my national champion, I have Illinois. Hey, Eric, thank you for joining me. Derek, what's happening? It's two NIT games. Yeah, it's NIT game going right now. I'm watching the Bucks and the Sixers, but Embiid is out. Hey, Moonrock. Hey, James. Thank you, COVID. Thank you. Well, thank you. Very kind words. So starting, let me see. It doesn't look like any playing games are on this side. Now, remember, the playing games are going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow, good picks. Thank you, Charlie Murphy. So tomorrow is the playing games. So remember, they're all tomorrow. Tylo TV may be one, or Tyvo, or whatever it's called. Well, let me see. I looked that up earlier, and I'll tell you where the games are going to be. So the playing games tomorrow are going to be, all right, all the playing games, they only have 4 playing games. Truth TV is going to have the first game on at 5 Eastern. TBS is going to have the second game, which is Drake, Wichita. They're going to have that game on at 6:27. Again, Truth TV is going to be Appalachian State and Norfolk State at 8:40. And then the late game is going to be Michigan versus UCLA on TBS. So two games on Truth TV, 2 games on TBS. So, no, I didn't hear about that. Sean Bradley's paralyzed. Caden, wow. How did he get paralyzed? Let's look that up. Wow. Sean Bradley, huh? What happened to Sean Bradley? Bicycle? Damn. No date. How you get hit from behind by a car? How the car didn't see that big old man? The accident caused traumatic spinal, leaving him paralyzed. He was hospitalized for 8 weeks after neck fusion. Wow. So this cat was drafted in 93, so he's about 10 years younger than me. So we sorry. Let's everybody send him some healing energies. But that reminds me of like Roy Campanella, so-called loses his car after they moved to LA after he had been MVP twice. And he so-called lost his car and he became paralyzed. And Roy Campanella, now you're talking about one of the saddest stories. This is how evil the woman he was with. Again, Roy, is in a wheelchair, barely move his arms, and his wife is bringing men home and fucking them in front of him. Roy Campanella, he was a hero and he didn't deserve to be treated like that. I like Colorado and San Diego State. What's good, A-Win? Official pick 76ers versus the Net. Okay, King Kane. I guess I mean, who did I pick here? I picked Appalachian State to beat Norfolk State. I picked St. Mary's to beat Texas. No. Yeah, I picked St. Mary's to beat Texas Southern, and I picked Michigan State to beat UCLA. Campanella Park okay. Yeah. Campanella was interesting. I think he was a partly Jewish faith person and a partly American Indian or black person, whatever you want to call it. And He started playing catcher as a child. They wouldn't even wear no face mask. He was like, I broke my nose so many times he couldn't even tell. He was just playing. I mean, when he described how much they played baseball as a child, it almost mimics how I grew up. People in the 60s grew up just constantly playing basketball. Roy Campanella talks about playing baseball from sun up to sundown. Now, when I was that age, we could still do that. Nobody ever caught. You just pitched it, and with no stealing. But my age was still doing that. We were still playing baseball like that, or we would play softball. But I noticed my oldest is 31, and you never saw anything where you would see unorganized children playing baseball. That is something I think died in the 70s. I really do. Where just children had, because think about it, all you need is bats and everybody has gloves. That's all the equipment you needed. And yet you don't see that anymore. Just children blindly just going in there and playing, baseball. But yeah, look, Roy was sad. But that part of him, and he played Negro League as well. He played Negro League. So going into Baylor is the number 1 seed. Baylor is playing Hartford. I am going to go with Baylor. We have North Carolina playing Wisconsin. I'm going into Wisconsin. We have Villanova versus Winthrop. I tell you what, Winthrop is a decent team. They've been talking about an upset of it all day. They've been talking about what number 12 is going to beat them. I think that's hype. I think Villanova still has enough to beat them. Purdue, North Texas. I'm going with Purdue. Purdue has a pretty solid team. They still got a big dude down there. Texas Tech and Utah. This might be a pretty good game. Texas Tech is still reeling. Utah State actually has a decent team, but I think the Texas Tech conference is going to be a little stronger. This is one to watch as well. Colgate is pretty decent. Colgate and Arkansas, but again, Arkansas plays a little stronger competition. Then we have Florida against Virginia Tech. Florida kind of floundered at the end of the year. Virginia Tech always plays. Let's go an upset there. I'm going to get that one to Virginia Tech. And Ohio State versus Oral Roberts. I got Ohio State beating them. So we're going to have Baylor versus Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin beats Baylor. Upset there. Villanova and Purdue. I'm going with Purdue. I think Villanova, the injuries are going to catch up. Texas Tech versus Arkansas. I'm going to go with Arkansas. Then we have Virginia Tech versus Ohio State. I'm going with Ohio State. Then we're going to have Wisconsin versus Purdue. I'm going to go Wisconsin. We have Ohio State versus Arkansas. I'm going to go with Ohio State. And then we have Ohio State playing Wisconsin. Without Wisconsin being at home, I'm going to Ohio State going to the Final Four. Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech upset Ohio State. Hey, Marcus the Great, thank you for joining me. Hey, Honeyway, hope you're good. Damian Lillard had the magnet yesterday. Yeah, I checked that out too. Did you check out that determination system patent? Oh, I haven't, but I'll check it out. I did make a note of that. I'll check it out before I do my late show, because I'm not going to go on now until I go on to midnight. I was a little tired yesterday, so I slept some evenings. So now we're going to go into the Midwest. We have Illinois versus Drexel. I'm Illinois easy. This is going to be a tough game. Loyola Chicago has a pretty decent team. They have Georgia Tech, and I agree when somebody said the Georgia Tech upset. I think Georgia Tech's. I don't know. I've watched a few of Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech. I wasn't impressed with Georgia Tech, so I'm gonna go ULC to beat them. So I'll take somebody's advice on here. Then we have Tennessee versus Oregon State. This is going to be a tough game. Oregon State is a pretty decent team. I'm going to go with Oregon State to beat Tennessee. Then we have Oklahoma against Liberty, and Liberty's really not bad, but I think Oklahoma State conference is going to be a little tougher to competition. Now, this is another one. San Diego State versus Syracuse. I like San Diego State. They have a decent team. I'm gonna pick them to move on. Even though Syracuse has a decent team, but if San Diego State holds up with their shooting, they've been shooting well. You know Syracuse is going to play that matchup zone, which really is just pure zone. I give the push to San Diego State. West Virginia, Morehead State. I'm going to go with West Virginia. And then we have Clemson versus Rutgers. Again, Rutgers has a good team. I think Rutgers' record is going to fool you. They play against good competition. Clemson kind of floundered a little bit at the end, but Clemson has a good team too. I'm going to give Clemson a nod. And then we have Houston versus Cleveland State. I'm not impressed with Houston. I've watched Houston play a few times, but I still think they're going to beat them. Okay, so back up here, we're going to go Illinois versus Loyola Chicago. I got IU moving on. We have Oregon State versus Oklahoma State. That is going to be a pretty good game. I'm going to go with I don't know. I really like Oklahoma State. I really do. But this was kind of a push to me. I'm just going to say I'm going to go Oklahoma State. All right, then that's going to put us in San Diego against West Virginia. I think San Diego will beat them. Then we're going to go Cleveland against Houston. I am going to say Houston. Then we're going to have Illinois versus Oregon State. I'm pushing IU. Now, I'll tell you, Houston is going to give Illinois. This is going to be, to me, Houston is going to be the toughest team Illinois faces. Just style of play, matchup. Hey, PJ, thank you for joining me. Dredd, thank you for joining me. Sheesh, thank you. R. Kelly tribute in that Illinois game. I'll get to that in a minute, Sheesh. But thank you for joining me. This is, to me, going to be the toughest game they face just because of matchup. I still think IU is going to go. And then we got Ohio State and Illinois. I think, again, Illinois is going to be in the finals. And then I think Illinois, it's going to be a repeat of 89 semifinal game. I'm going more with my heart because leaving is really hurting Michigan. But I am just, because of just sentimental reasons, I'm going to put Michigan in there. Again, I think it's going to be a rematch of 89 semifinal. That was such a great game and a lot of pros. And then I'm national champion, I got Illinois. So Final Four, Gonzaga, U of M, Ohio State, Illinois. And I think Illinois is going to win it all. All right, so I want to answer Shee's question. What was the purpose of the R. Kelly? Okay, Shee's. One thing that you have to know is R. Kelly would have never went down in Illinois. I did several tournaments where I actually worked for him, and he played in some tournaments. He ain't that tall a guy, but he loved to hoop. Chicago people pretty much revere this cat. Now, yeah, there's a lot of negative energy on this cat, but he put a lot of money in the hood. He was a dude who was always in Chicago. And the way they try to do things, just like in Boondocks, Boondocks was trying to show you, the creepiness of this dude in some ways. But if you looked at the Boondocks mask, and then if you looked at the mask that brother was wearing, you telling me that's the only color that mask came in? Maybe it was graphite. Is that the reason for the mask? Clearly showing that R. Kelly's going down and that Illinois is taking him down. So that is the purpose of the mask, showing that Illinois is taking him down despite his support of Chicago. That is the purpose of the mask. Why every time somebody shoots the ball in the NBA always turns red? It only turns red when time goes out. It turns red as the shot clock goes down. It turns red. That is when it turns red. When the shot clock is going down, it turns red. Looks like they're doing the shaming ritual on Deshaun Watson. Two massive suing him for inappropriate conduct. Yes, they are going through the shaming. And really, we should read into the shaming on him probably going, I think, to the Niners. I think they're going to do a straight-up trade for Garoppolo, and that shaming ritual, that is going to send him to California. But, yeah, it's definitely a shaming ritual because why now? You know, the thing is, like, most of the time people get sued is when they get big contracts. He ain't getting sued for the contract. Remember, they didn't go after him back then, but it's getting a lot more publicity. So, upset bust, -28. Gonzaga -20. If Zag win, they'll be 27-0. If they lose in a round of 32, finishing with 27 wins on their 28th game. Good decode. Yeah, Gonzaga, well, the thing, yeah, they don't play a tight schedule. Well, but this year they mixed it up a little bit, but, you know, again, because of the travel restriction. But what I love that the coach always did is he had them tournament ready. He always had that team tournament ready. So at the end of the year, they played their best. See, I think him going against Hank Gather's team, Marymount, I think it's called Marymount, I think he saw the preparation for the tournament. So he always had it. Remember, they was upset, and they were considered a small major. So they were a team that always upset people. So he's a very good coach for tournament preparation, and that's what I like about him. Baylor, Illinois, Gonzaga, Michigan. Okay, Derek. Seems like you're ready. And so, but yeah, we see the shaming of brothers all the time. That ain't gonna go away. You know, that's not gonna go away. Hey, Mr. T Gaming, thank you for joining me. I mean, that's just how they do players. I think Chris Carter said it best. It's like when he signed for $22 million, people act like he had the $22 million on him. And then what was the hustler's name in the hustler's name in Chicago, in DC? You know, he was the CIA agent in DC, and he was at the Sugar Ray Leonard Hagler fight. And they said one time, is like, you know, at the time, this cat had a bunch of money from selling Yay. And he looked at NBA players who was on contract. And so even though their contract said millions, they wasn't getting that millions at one time. And so they weren't liquid rich. Yeah, contract rich, but not liquid rich. and so he was just, his point was he had more money than them because a lot of them hadn't fulfilled their contract. So, and again, this was back in the 80s. So players wasn't making 30, 40 million, you know, even after taxes at some time. They were making quite a bit less. David Thompson signed the richest contract in the 80s or late 70s. It was $32 million. That at one time was the highest paid. And then we had, the lineman from, who's the lineman today that signed 20-some million or 32 million? Again, he signed for 32 million, something like 27 million guaranteed, the highest paid of any lineman. Oh, that was a nasty left-hand dunk, Ben Simmons. Tell you what, if he can come on this half, oh, that's a foul. He pushed the shit out of him. But if he can come on, he'll turn his neutral into positive. But I'm still picking them. I'm still picking Utah in the finals. So that is my finals pick. I'm still going with them. I was surprised they held the Embiid out this game. Again, you trying to get more positive and more ratings, but they held him out. And there's fans at this game. Trent Williams, yeah, thank you, Ziggy. Yeah, they gave Trent Williams all that money. And remember how they did Hainsworth. Remember Hainsworth signed for all that money, and the coach was jealous because, again, he was making more money than the coach, and they tried to hold his money up by saying he couldn't pass the on-field conditioning, which was all a lie, and they tried to shame him. And that's something I hate, and Chris Collinsworth is the worst, is being in somebody's pocket. But all players, it's a shaming. Well, that's why they paid him, and it's to make you look down on them people as well. And so that's some foul shit that they do. And that's some foul shaming that they do. Utah is going to lose in the first round to an underdog. Just what I think. Okay, Ziggy. I don't. I just look at, matter of fact, Utah is playing again tonight. And you're seeing them more and more. They're carrying the ratings. Watch their games. They're carrying the ratings. They did the 30 for 30. They did the fake stuff where Joe Bear touched the mics and all that stuff. I think that's setting the stage to push them through, because again, it's going to be pushing them through. Does LeBron win again? LeBron is a positive, but again, they like some ways of LeBron being the bad guy. And LeBron winning this year, I don't see them giving that bad guy thing 2 years in a row. Again, when Davis comes back, and Davis and Durant are being held out equally. So it's to make the Lakers seem like they're vulnerable. I still say they're going to push Utah through, but we'll see. I don't know if they're going to lose in the first round. And looking at Spider Mitchell compared to Edwards, I think Edwards is slightly taller, but they love Mitchell. Mitchell this is his second or third commercial, so you have to look at that. Like Chris Paul and Dame are going to make commercials because smaller players look better on camera. Look at Jason Taylor, Tyson's. Forgive me, but he, they're showing him just straight up from afar because taller players just don't look good on camera. Shorter dudes look better on camera. And that's why most actors are short. I mean, real short. Mickey Rooney was the most famous man in the world at one time, and that dude is barely 5'2", but yet he was America's hero. He was everybody's son at 5'2", and then he married Ava Gardner, and Ava Gardner was only about 5'6", but she towered over him. And then Frank Sinatra went crazy over Ava Gardner, if you guys remember that. Went crazy over him. So that's just my opinion. Again, the college games come on tomorrow. So those of you who follow, like some mentioned, the NIT. And again, the NIT was the most popular thing up into the 70s of the push of UCLA. And I've talked about that before, knowing Tommy Curtis out of Albion. That is when you see college basketball taking the swing. And then you see the peak, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. That was the shot in the arm that really gave the NCAA, because it really wasn't David Thompson, because people love David Thompson. Him and Monty Toll was the one that put the alley-oop in basketball, but you couldn't dunk it. But David Thompson could still just catch it and drop it. And so David Thompson made that famous. UCLA won 80-some games in a row, broken by Notre Dame in Notre Dame. I watched that game as a younger person, and that game had one of the highest ratings of all time. If everybody you look that game up, that was one of the highest rating games of all time. Still, the highest couple rating games is still Houston playing UCLA in 68 or 69. They were trying to raise the NCAA even then. Alvin Hayes, they put that regular season game on TV. Again, Alcindor Jabbar got poked in the eye. He wasn't very effective because he was still kind of hurt. And then playing in that dome where it's just space, it's hard to shoot in. I mean, people can shoot, but it's very hard to shoot in that place. And so they beat them in that regular season game. And then when Jabbar was 100%, they dogged them in the NCAA tournament. I think they were in the 16 or the Elite 8, beat Houston and Alvin Hayes. Alvin Hayes and the other guy later coached Chaney. Don Chaney was also on that team. Chaney coached for a long time. And, you see Alvin Hayes now, he has problems with his hands. When they were showing that game, I was just talking about the 50th year anniversary, they showed Alvin Hayes, and his hands was like this, kind of like Ali's hands. You ever notice Ali, and I've taken injections, cortisone in my hands and in my thumbs. That was the worst pain I ever had, those type of injections. I would never do it again. But Ali had to have his knuckles injected before every fight after his close to 4-year layoff. He got bursitis in his hands really bad. And so when you see him as an old man, remember, steroids eats bones. So anytime you get steroid, it eats bones. Right now, my hip is being eaten by steroids. But as long as they say it don't break and it doesn't fall, the socket doesn't fall apart. But I have that disease where steroids has attacked my bones. Hey, all biz, thank you. The Magnets were on Kyrie the other night. They were. They definitely were. They definitely were. I'm looking at this game here. And again, I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to say who's who. But you can see, but I'll say one of the biggest tells I talked about the other night, number 32 for Ohio State dunked the ball, and they pushed that shit right out. I should have made a video about it. Ron Morris, Brandon Ingram missed that last free throw on purpose. Check. I watched that. He did. I watched that. He sure did. He sure did. He did miss that on purpose. I agree. Because they had that game handled. And for them to blow that, and they blew it in the last couple minutes, so that game couldn't have been scripted. They like Dame. Dame took Curry's place for 2 seasons, so they couldn't just turn the basket off for him. And what did he end up with? Like 50 points? Didn't Dame have 50? I think Dame had 50 points. So it's crazy. All these shots are going back of the rim. Oh, yeah, that's where the attraction is. The attraction is in the back. The attraction. I was looking at one where they showed the screws. And I'd never witnessed that before, where 2 open screws is right there over the breakable rim. I've never seen that, where 2 screws is like on top of that, where the release is. And I think even that probably had some type of attraction in it. Yep, off of 20 shots. There you go. Yep, Ron said 50. B more. Yep, 20 shots. Remember, Kobe had 63 out of 50 shots. He had 60 out of 50 shots. It took him 50 shots. What did you say? Dame took Curry's spot. Yeah, Dame, when Curry was hurt, basically 2 seasons, Dame became the new Curry. That's why the OKC shot to get him, when he did the bye-bye shot, and thankfully Zach Hubbard shared that, and that was the first time one of my works went into 100,000. Again, even though it was on Zach's channel, Zach replayed my work, and so it showed it though. You could see how that shot just curved and boom, and that's the traction in the balls. I tell you, one of the best ones I ever did was back in 16 when it showed green shot from the top of the key, and I had filmed it where the ball's rotating, and then it gets to the rim, it stops rotating in air, and then just drops in the basket. Now, what can make a ball stop rotating? This ball's rotating, then just stops rotating and drops in. And I put that on my channel back in 16. Of course, it's all gone. I might have it on Facebook. They need to keep Dame. They needed Dame to keep the three-pointer alive. Absolutely. Well, to keep small players alive, too. And it's an attack on bigger dudes. What's his name playing now? Lopez. Before last season or the season before the season of 1920, before they shut stuff down, the season of 18-19, Lopez had only taken something like 12 three-point shots the year before. The next year, he shoots over 300. Now, you don't think he was told to shoot that many? He just was in practice, wonder shooting. Again, the big dudes shoot out there. They don't need the big dudes. Like I was saying with Illinois played with 1 big dude and 4 guards, excuse me. The player of the year that's up for Illinois, he plays a 3 game, but he's clearly, this dude is what, 6'3", maybe? But his game is a 6'3". He plays a small forward. If you watched his game was small forward. I'll probably do maybe a cast of that game just so you can see, because Illinois runs a great offense. They run a great offense the way they put their players in isolation. I really love what the coach did, because like that number 3, he liked the ball in the elbow, and I talked about that the other day, and they was running all the pick and rolls to put him in them same spots. I like when a coach does that. When a coach puts the player where he likes operating from. And so the player doesn't really have to go ISO. The player can actually, have the team movement in the pick and the movement. I mean, again, he's the first option. So after he does that screen and he moves away, yes, they want him to be that first option. But the offense is still moving because if he doesn't get it, there's somebody else moving. So that's what I like about Illinois' offense. And then we got three other clutch shooters, and their big dude is going to give everybody trouble. Everybody is going to give them trouble. Again, he went up against a big dude in Michigan, the freshman of the year in Michigan. He went up against him and put work on him. So that's why my first time seeing basket manipulation was that Dame shot. Yeah, CJ. Yeah. And it's funny if you sit basket level, you can kind of see it as well. If you sit basket level, when you sit like not under the basket, but it's like on the how can I explain this? So if you sit like on the floor, there's some angled kind of in the target center, there's like some angled on the floor places you can sit. And so I used to always try to get those like on the floor and not up, but on the floor still, but just slightly. It's a place where I've been sitting for 20 plus years where I try to buy that seat, and it puts you like you have a great angle here because you're slightly elevated, but still pretty much on the basket side or basket level, but it gives you a great angle for all the manipulation shots. So next time, right now they're having they had a lottery today at the Target Center that you just had to put in, and I put in to try to see if I can get tickets for the rest of the year and next year. Who do I have for the MVP in the NBA? Who do I have for the MVP? I think they're going back to Embiid, but Embiid missing tonight might hurt him a little bit. I think they want James to be up there. So, and looking at Giannis, I mean, Giannis is not a complete player. Anybody believes that a 6'4" dude can stop this 7-footer and all of a sudden he can't drive. Do you see how fixed it is? All of a sudden he can't make them shots. He can't get by people. He ain't running down court. I mean, they scripted so obvious. So I'm still going with LeBron on the MVP. And the old Buffalo Wild Wings commercial was crazy to hit the button, fix the game. Exactly. And that's a mocking. That is a mocking. Again, Flubber mocked them in the 50s. And what the old Flubber movies was in the 80s. Remember, Flubber was trying to show you some of how it could be done, how they were preparing the system. Because again, the house wants to win. And it was only believable when the refs fixed it for so long. So they had to come up with something where they could control the baskets. And the evolution shows you it's over 50 years of the evolution. Now, I think when the collapsible baskets came in, it gave that rim more room, if you understand, because the static rim went right in. Like if you rip the static rim out, you ripping it out of the backboard. That's what Daryl Dawkins and several others did. They ripped it, and that's probably why. It was probably done on purpose because it was harder to control the magnetic system in that stagnant rim. Where are you putting all the magnets? So I bet anything Dawkins was told to break the rims. Now, remember, Shaq broke the whole support one time. Shaq dunked it so hard, he broke the whole support. But again, the first time I ran into collapsible rims was in Chicago, 1979, the summer of 79. And I've told the story before. Chicago State had won the Division II championship. My cousin and Big Tank was on that team and playing with them in Michigan in a reunion. They like, you got to come up here and start playing with people. Great way to stay in shape and play against top competition. Even though I was 18. I was 18. My birthday's early June. So, but that is probably why. They probably even saw then that, again, the collapsible rim gives you this much out of the rim, and then the rim comes from there. So you got about that much out of the rim, and then you've got the rim coming from there. So you've got a system about this much to work with. And it looks like they've used the back of that collapsible to put it in. How you doing? Hey, Trill, I'm smooth. Thank you. Who do I have for the finals? Which finals? You got to give me which finals, Ron. I forgot they giving it to Brian. Okay. Finals MVP. I think LeBron, if he wins again, he'll get both. But thank you, Trill. I'm smooth. How strong do you have to break the whole basket? Oh, remember, Shaq, look that up where Shaq breaks the support. Because Shaq, and then you see the clock come down. He broke the whole support, And I don't know if you guys remember. I remember watching my man Gerald Busby. He dunked one backwards against Hackett in the quarterfinals, and he broke the rim. It was at Hackett High. It was a district held there. And Gerald broke the rim. So it took them a minute for them to, and again, remember, all the stands is out. And so it's hard. It's in the gym's packed, so it's hard to take it off the rims that are above the stands. And so they had to drive in a rim from somewhere. They had to go to another gym and take that rim off. Or their small gym, I forget the story. I used to remember it, but they had to go somewhere else to bring a rim in because again, you can't lower them baskets because they're all over, the fans and stuff. So you couldn't lower them to take a basket off. So the game was delayed almost an hour, them finding the basket. So and so now, with all the technology and space age, of course, we see the system in play, and they can't deny it. They can't deny it. And again, our aim as researchers is to make them admit that the games are fixed. I mean, you went after wrestling. They went after wrestling. So, and this is the thing, is boxing is not going to be legitimate until they do the score after every round. But they don't want to do that because they can't fix it. They made the Olympics do that after they cheated Roy Jones Jr. So the Olympics now, they show the score after every round. Why doesn't professional boxing all over the world do this? Because it's harder to fix if you do that. You can change the score when the people are in your ear and say, you can change the score. But if you have to show it, so the same thing with football should be done, and the same thing for baseball. In baseball, I mean, see, this is what they did in baseball. They tried to say one team was the only one fixing it. It's always been like that. Baseball has always been from the history of the very beginning of baseball. Again, watch Ken Burns, his thing on baseball. They show you that it was once the players control baseball, not these owners. It was the players. And then the owners tried to go around and saying that baseball was taking a hold, the owners told a lie and said that the players were rigging games, which they were, but they tried to shame this one player, and it gave the owners the right to come in there. And remember, old baseball was slavery. Once you signed for a team, they could trade you, but you were part of that team forever. And that's where Kurt Floyd comes into. And it is still pretty much a slavery system, because we have some Dominicans that stay, or we have some people from South America that stay in the minors for over 10 years. So yes, you might go into pro baseball 16 or 17, but they will keep you into the minors. And remember, the first contracts in minor leagues are better, but some of them average players, they're not. And you could be in the minor leagues for 10 years. And they are so dirty, they can bring you up and let you play up until almost the first 30, 40 days. And then they can cut you or put you back into AAA. And then they got another year that they don't have to pay you full money. So this is how they can screw people in baseball. So people don't realize that. A lot of baseball players get taken advantage of. So it may seem like they make big money. It's like Albert Pujols. He lied about his age. This dude probably closer to 50 now. And they got him where he's saying he's 44 or 45. And this cat is probably close to 50. So, but to get that bread, I mean, that's what he had to do. And remember, it wasn't that long ago we had the boy that was like 13, 14 pitching as a 12-year-old, and everybody was saying he was older. Y'all remember that? Then they came out later and said, yeah, he was older. So we see the problem. We see the problems that wanting to win, the will to win at any cost. So, well, guys, this is going to be just a short show I wanted to do on my final picks. Hey, Rico, thank you for joining me. I am going to be back on at midnight tonight. So just wanted to come on and give my picks before Thursday. And the spiritual part of my show will be back on tonight. I might do little short shows like this every day, trying to come on 5, 6, 7, and just do pure sports, and then just do the spiritual stuff at midnight. So I will do a little bit of everything. So again, this is Chocolate Mountain Sports Show. I am your host, 8 Wind is Timeless. If you want to get a little more spiritual, and I'll still do sports, it doesn't matter. But I did kind of want to break it up a little bit. So I'm going to be on again at midnight Central Time for those of you that are up, and I'll be bringing in more guests. Guests just kind of buzzed me right then. Going to be bringing in more guests, and as we look at this system of confusion. So again, this is 8 Wind is Timeless. Thank you for joining me. Till see you at midnight, or till we meet again.